All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? My name is Eric Greenstein with SoFlo Real Estate Investors. I am here with Lauren and Kyle, and they decided to join us today. Today we'll actually be talking about how basically we are going to build wealth, right? And of course we are going to be talking and digging deep into the BRRRR strategy or the BRRRR method. So again, thank you again for joining us. If you want to catch this episode again, you can always go onto our website at SoFloREI.com, and you can always click on this video and it'll pop right up and you can always view it. But again, I really appreciate everyone for coming on today, and Kyle and Lauren, take it. So,
great, thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah, no problem. If you can just go ahead and just kind of just briefly introduce yourselves and how you got to where you are today, and then we'll dig deep into the three questions.
Perfect.
So.
All right. So we started investing 3 years ago in 2017 with a house hack. It was also a HUD property. And kind of since then, we've been working off the mindset of like, we're DIY investors, and that means we're do-it-ourselves landlords, contractors. We're kind of doing it all. And it's been awesome so far. We've had a really great ride. But within the past 3 years, we've acquired 4 properties, which makes up 7 units. So we have 2 single families, a duplex, and a triplex. And the triplex is our most recent property, which we lovingly refer to as Big Green. And we'll be house hacking that one as well. I don't know, it's been a really fun ride. All of our properties we've used kind of a different strategy. Some we've BRRRR'd, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Some we've kind of just done like traditional financing, and it's just like a really straight buy and hold and hasn't needed a lot of renovations. Some have needed like full guts. So it's been fun because I feel like we've had quite a bit of experience in such a short period of time.
Yeah, we've utilized a lot of strategies.
And we're up in North Jersey, or excuse me, we're up in South Jersey. I'm originally from North Jersey. So we're in South Jersey, and we primarily invest in like 2 areas that are pretty close to each other, but our thought process is one is a little bit more affordable, more working class. Property values are a little bit low, but they get better cash flow. And then we invest in another area a couple miles away where it's a little bit already mature. Property values, like the town's already there, right? But kind of what we were going back to what we were chatting before we started recording is, there is this goal for a long-term wealth and principal pay down and net worth in the future. So having these like higher priced properties in our portfolio, we think is a huge benefit and helps us diversify a little bit.
But they still cash flow.
They do still cash flow, just not as good. But
okay, well, that's great. And I love how you guys are using different methods. I just feel like touching different areas in real estate obviously will benefit you, and then you could go in and do a venture with someone else, be like, hey, I've done this method before, we could try this, or I could try this one, so I love that. But the more options the better, I always like to say. So we're gonna go ahead and ask the first question here. Could you actually explain what BRRRR is, and if someone was just like starting out, like how would the BRRRR method help them, or how could they benefit from that?
So the BRRRR method is a strategy in investing that basically allows you to recycle your money, and it's an acronym. So it stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. Some people actually kind of like flip the R's around. Some people are able to refinance before they rent it out, but that's the general gist of it.
Correct.
And the great part about it is that you get to reuse and recycle your capital. So basically, for easy number sakes, let's say you buy a property for $50,000 and then you renovate it for $25,000. Your all-ins for $75,000. If it's a good enough deal, it's going to appraise for $100,000, and then you get to refinance, which is basically putting like a new mortgage or another mortgage on the property. You get to pull all of that. You get to pull up to 80% of the value of the home back out, and you get to take that money and go do it again. So it's really just like a rinse, wash, repeat. And the reason I think it's like, you know, you got to be careful because not every market is BRRRRable. There's like a way that you could really kind of like put yourself in some hot water by overextending and over leveraging yourself. But I think it's a great opportunity for beginners because you don't have to save up a 20% down payment, buy a house, wait a year or two to save up a 20% down payment again, buy another house. It really allows you to kind of take whatever money you do have, whether it's yours or you borrowed or whatever, and just keep using it over and over again. So you don't have to keep building up the stash of cash or finding the stash of cash.
We're relying on like W-2 money to come trickle back in to fund another property. So, I mean, our first one, we actually kind of commingled two strategies, which was the house hack and the BRRRR. So we almost did a live-in BRRRR. It was, I think it was ended up being just under 2 years, right?
Did we live there?
Yeah.
No, we only lived there like a year.
A year. But we renovated heavily the downstairs unit, got it rented out, got upstairs just about where we could move in, and then kind of took our time with that renovation. So if someone were to think that, you know, the first one was a HUD, like Lauren explained. So that enabled us to buy it cheap because it needed a heavy, heavy renovation. Sure. So if somebody wanted to commingle actually using a contractor, they could have them do the rentable unit out and do that quick so you can get a renter in there. And then you could focus on just your unit that you would be living in. So that's kind of what we did. And but we did the whole thing. But that may be something that we look to in the future. Yeah. Just time-wise.
So in our portfolio, out of the 4 properties, we BRRRR'd 2 of them. The first one was which Kyle said. Yeah. And I wouldn't say it was like the perfect BRRRR. No, not but we BRRR'd it in that we bought it, we renovated it, we rented out, and then we refinanced. And why I say it's not a perfect BRRRR is because we didn't pull out all of the money. Yeah. And basically that is because one, it was our first property and I was just scared as hell of like being over leveraged. So even though the property appraised for much more and we could have taken out more money, I just was nervous and didn't want to cut into our cash flow. I'd rather, you know, I wanted a better cash flowing property than having a higher mortgage.
We got most of our rehab money back.
Yeah. And then on our third property, we did like a perfect BRRRR.
Yeah. We were better at analyzing deals at that point.
Yeah. The first property is just like the practice round.
Yeah.
And so our third property, we did a BRRRR. We coupled it with using private money. And to give you guys some numbers, we bought it for $25,000. We put in $40,000 in a mixture of like renovations, holding costs, paying our private lenders, right? So we're all in for $65,000. Now, we have never invested in this area prior to this property. And like, if you follow us, you will know I am like so conservative. I always like underestimate what rents are going to be. I overestimate expenses.
Extremely conservative.
So when I was running the numbers on this property, I was like, I don't know, like I think the ARV is only like 80 grand. Like,
and when I know that she says 80 grand, I just immediately add like 20 because.
But I genuinely don't think that. I'm like, oh, it's like so tight. I'm like yelling at him for like spending $10 extra at Home Depot. So we're all in for
65.
65,000. We get the appraisal done, and it appraises for 117. I about like knocked me off the chair.
She called me and was like, "Are you sitting down? We just got the number back. It appraised for 117."
So awesome. We ended up cashing out only 75%, even though I know 5% is not a big difference when a property only appraises for 100 grand or whatever. But we cashed out 75%. So we basically
it was like
$87,000 or something. Right. So not only did we pay back our private money, not only did we pay back whatever money we had in it, we actually like made money on the deal, and the property still cash flow better than our first property.
Yeah. And then at the end, we had $0 of our own dollars into that property. We inherited a property with none of our own money. I mean, it was perfect.
And then the money that we like profited, because I think we like technically made like.
No, I think we got an extra like 11 grand back.
Yeah. We took that and used it as a down payment for the triplex.
Yeah.
So it's been like
just under 9,000.
Yeah. So it's been like a great ride. So that's kind of our process, is we're like looking for more BRRRRs now, because we just had such a phenomenal experience with that.
And
Wow.
there's a lot of movement in that market that we BRRRR'd in, where a lot of opportunities still to get good properties. So we're going to really dive into that now. We're kind of in the position now that we're going to be actively looking again.
Yeah.
Wow, no, that's awesome. That's perfect. So we're gonna go to the second question here. I noticed that you stated that you obviously JV'd here and there. But what is your favorite deal and what's your least favorite deal?
So, all right, I'll start. So
favorite.
my favorite is definitely the perfect BRRRR that we just explained. Only because that was in my opinion, like, we have I'm sure you probably caught on already just from our conversation here.
Yeah.
She and I am the renovate. So, side. So for me to see that sort of transformation of that property into what we want the neighborhood to look like, and get that up to speed where we want the neighborhood to be, was an awesome.
Yeah.
And then it to work out so well financially was a bonus.
Well, and then also that deal taught us a lot. Like, it was the first time using private money.
Absolutely.
It was the first time buying an off-market deal. It was the first time us buying a property that I didn't actually go to. Kyle went, I only saw pictures. I didn't see it till he closed.
And there was still somebody living there when I went to go see it. And it was so packed with stuff. It was actually tough to really get a gauge on what the scope of work or the rehab cost was going to be.
So there was boxes everywhere, and
yeah. The basement was full, so it was tough to see. But we had bought this house specifically was only 2 doors down from our second property, so we kind of had an idea of water issues or anything like that.
Yeah, like the common issues
of the area. So we weren't expecting like a huge surprise, but it was still a little bit scary.
Well, it was, and like Kyle said, so there was someone living there when he went and looked at it, and then the person who was living there left everything.
Yeah.
So it was our responsibility to empty the house out after we bought it. And so that, that's a little scary, because you don't know, are you going to move this couch and see like a massive hole in the ground? Are you going to take down the cabinets and find like crazy termites, I mean,
or you buy it as is. Just to empty it's an expense.
Yeah.
So to keep that in mind when you're running the numbers at the beginning, we always preach meetups are, worth their weight in gold. I mean, you make so many contacts there, and we got a guy that was part of our meetup happened to have a dumpster company, and we were able to utilize him, give him some money to empty the house.
Yeah, because originally we called 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and they quoted us over $4,000 to empty the house.
I think it was close to 6 once we waited like
$6,000.
Yeah, it was insane. And then we called our dumpster friend, and I think he did it for $1,700. I was like,
and they emptied it. We didn't have.
Well, they emptied it. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
I mean, that's about right. That's about right. I just did a huge demo on this on that duplex I actually told you about. Not duplex, townhouse that I told you about. And we hauled 2 trucks away. It cost about $1,300. So yeah. I think it was like 30 cubic lengths or whatever it was. But yeah, it's about right.
And then it was so crazy because. So the owners of the house were an adult couple that lived in Florida, and they were letting their daughter live there. And so a lot of the stuff that we were throwing away was the parents, and it was like really weird and eye-opening to like be going through people's like life things and then like get rid of them. I don't know. It was a crazy experience, but
yeah,
it was interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, definitely. I could always kind of relate to. Well, I've only had one deal, and my deal so far is the worst deal, unfortunately. But yeah, it's the first buy, and you learn, and you just move on. But yeah, just don't buy 2 hours away from you or 3 hours away from you. I thought that was the best thing ever, and you get better market value, but it is so hard to manage. Et cetera. I mean, it's a lot of work. especially if you can't go down every week or every other weekend to look at it. You don't really know what your property condition is. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
perfect. But so then we'll move on to actually this is my favorite question. I usually ask this. What is your preferred financing in order to purchase a property? Like what's like your preferred way to purchase?
So, I kind of feel like every property needs a different strategy and also needs different financing. So our first property, we did conventional 20% down. Our
Hmm.
second property, we did conventional 20% down. Our
Yeah.
third property, we did private money. And our fourth, we did FHA 3.5% down. I would say obviously our favorite is private money.
100.
It
Yeah.
is, kind of going back to what we said about the BRRRR, about how you can kind of like rinse and you don't have to wait and save and get this big down payment. Like I feel like that was our original plan was we're going to buy a house.
Mhm.
We're going to save our money. We're going to eat bologna sandwiches. We're going to like be super frugal and we're just going to
Yeah.
save and save and save and save until we can buy all the houses. And like, that's a very slow process. And
Right.
that's fine for some people, but we were like, we got to, pick things up a bit. And so private money is just a really great way to like speed up the process and also you definitely end up treating it more like a business because when you know that you're responsible for somebody else's money, you'd be surprised at how less flexible you are with the budget.
I mean, Lauren just hit it on the head. That's exactly it. I mean, the fact that we successfully BRRRR'd a property, and then you've got people coming out of the woodwork now wanting to give you money when originally they were like, oh well, this is like a scam of some kind. Okay. So they see it, and then when they see the results of it, that's when you can put together. So we just started putting together an example deal where we can now, because we've had so many people now, just friends of ours. Hey, I would love to, invest some money with you guys, whether it funds the whole deal or whether it only funds a partial part of the deal. They want to be involved. So we started to put together an example property based on the market that we're investing in. We know the numbers. So we'll throw the numbers together on a BRRRR deal. If a property like this comes up, would you be interested? And a lot of them are like, yeah. This looks nice.
And I would 1,000% rather make my friends and family money than like a bank or a hard money lender. No offense to them, but and it's a little cleaner. There's a million different ways you could structure the deal or the partnership or the terms on the private loan. But they're usually very like, I'm going to borrow this amount for this length of time and you're going to get this % of interest. Where if you went to like a hard money lender, you went to like a traditional bank, you got to like pay points and there's fees and there's draws and there's like a lot of different steps to things where when you do private money, it could just be a little bit cleaner. And then every time, so transparency, like my brother is one of our private lenders. Every time we go out to dinner with my brother and we talk about potential deals, tax write-off, that's a benefit. You can't do that with a big bank.
And another thing, like everybody loves like the HGTV version of real estate. So if you ever do have a private lender that's a friend or a family member, bring them along on that journey that they like get to feel.
It
like,
gets them excited.
Send them like pictures of the renovations. Like let them come out and see it. Like see where their money's going. Like you get them involved in the journey. I can guarantee that money will absolutely get recycled into another deal.
And so it really, like I think just us talking, the theme is recycling money. And so it's both in the BRRRR strategy and with your private lenders. Because if you made them money once and it was a positive experience, they'll give it to you again.
That's it.
So it really just, allows you to kind of do multiple deals and keep growing and move forward.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's actually very interesting. Well, what we're going to do is those are actually the questions that I had. We're actually going to open up to the floor here for the Q&As. Anyone could go. So feel free. It's an open floor. Would anyone like to ask any questions? You know what? I'll start with the new face. Rick usually goes first, so I'll have him go second. Edwin, sir. Now, again, nice to have you on here. You have any questions?
Thank you. Yes, I do have questions. Well, one of my biggest questions right now, well, Lauren and Kyle know about the property, and I see that Kyle is the one that does the renovation. When it comes to permits, I know, and I've read and I've done my research about, it's always good to pull out permits before you do any renovations because, you don't want to get in trouble. But when it comes to like a small renovation, like saying making one of the rooms a little bigger, like in New Jersey, how does that play?
Yeah, so if the negative side of because a lot of people will do the work and then go pull the permit, it gets approved because then it's got to go through an approval process and then it gets approved and then you are supposed to then begin the work. All right.
Okay.
They can actually deny the work that you are asking to do. So let's say that we're on our third floor and we want to do some sort of renovation to the first floor unit in our triplex. They may say, the normal way, like two 2x10s or something like that, won't fly because you have
if you were to take down a wall.
If you were to take a wall down, yeah, and there are two living spaces above you, it changes. Things change. So I would heavily suggest like always going to do it first, let it get approved, and then do the work.
And I would say, especially if you're not familiar with like building code, because what Kyle just mentioned is a situation where like he didn't do the renovation properly, in which case if the guy came out, he would then make you have to take it down and redo the work.
You would have to redo it.
So yes, we sometimes do the work and then go get the permit.
Yeah.
But it's for things that we know are being done properly.
Done correctly and that they're going to pass.
So as like a beginner, I would recommend you go get the permit approved first before you start doing the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Do it, and you're the homeowner pulling it, and you're having somebody else do it.
But also, like, I'm not sure what you meant by like making a room bigger. Like, did you mean just like take a wall down?
Well, take a wall, like pushing a wall, like maybe like a feet or 2 feet over, just to make that room a little bigger.
Yeah. So like you're essentially like putting up a temporary wall, taking down the wall you've got, and then building a new one.
Yeah.
Like moving it over.
Right.
Yeah. Then I would also maybe just look into like that, definitely a permit. But like, for example, one place that we've done renovations in, if we, for whatever reason, Kyle fell into this wall and we had to like re-sheet rock the whole wall, wouldn't need a permit. It was fine. Another town, there's
a lot of people. There's a lot of towns.
Yeah. If you're just sheetrocking a 1 foot by 1 foot square in this town, you still have to pull a permit.
Just live any rehab knowing that whatever you're doing requires a permit. I can almost guarantee whatever you're doing.
If you're doing same for same, you don't.
A lot of times it still does.
Yeah, because I know, like I said, the second floor has an annex floor on top of it, and we are planning on building a bathroom there. That one, obviously, we're gonna need, pull the permit, and like we're looking into like extra cash flow on that. But right now our biggest concern will be like on the floor, because we're house hacking. So on our floor where we're going to be staying, we feel that the room is a little too small, and we have a large living room where we're not going to be occupying the entire space.
Right.
We can, we were thinking of like maybe pushing the wall to make the room a little bigger, more space for us in the bedroom.
Yeah. The annex you're talking about, they're going to put a bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's on like a third floor, you said?
Yeah.
Can you fit a bedroom up there?
There's already a room in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's what we can't call it. We don't call it an attic because a room is in there already, but it's just a room and then this whole empty space.
Gotcha.
So we want to build another bathroom on top so we can, rent it like as a studio or something.
Nice. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so for the permits for that, it would be like a building permit or construction permit. And they're not going to come out there and like, dig around. He's legit going to, so frame it out. He's going to come out and look at it, and then that's it. Just don't do what I did one time, and I sheetrocked it shut before having him come out and do the final. And
he was like, what am I looking at? It's close.
They can be jerks and make you have to cut the sheetrock out to make sure that what's done up there is correct. luckily for me, he didn't.
Okay, so it'll be like after the studs and the plumbing and the electrical work is done, have them the final review, and then just close it out.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks. Yeah, like I said, like we've been, doing our homework and like, really digging into it, and it's exciting. Once you learn a little bit, it's just like everything starts coming at you, and you just want to like absorb everything,
Definitely.
Facts. I guess I'll chime in here, guys. Rick here. Wow, there's so much gems that you guys just threw out, man. I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll follow the theme of where Evan went at. So me, myself, I'm not a handy guy, so I'm going to be using contractors to go ahead and do all of my work for the most part, right? So I've been wondering, like how Edwin was mentioning how reconfiguring the home and stuff like that. I guess most of my properties are going to be value add because I do also want to stick in the BRRRR method. Like I'm in love with the BRRRR method, right? So my question is, I've been wondering, like, especially if you're going to knock down everything out and just kind of go to the studs, have you guys ever had to use or thought about using like a architect to kind of lay the floor plan, or does a contractor do that? So if you guys could just elaborate just a little bit, like how would that work? Have ever you guys used an architect before to kind of lay out the floor plan?
So we haven't had to. Okay, so some of these renovations where if you're taking down a bunch of load bearing with living space above, it needs to be done by an architect, and the architect will actually draw it up. So, but a lot of times, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, I think you could also use a structural engineer if you're gonna be doing like walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, so for example, we have an inspector in our meetup who his company is, and like they do home inspections, but they're also structural engineers.
Yeah.
And so they kind of like look for both. So I was gonna say, like, if you could find one of those.
But if you're using a GC anyway, he's gonna know who to go to if himself isn't licensed to draw it up. So he'll know who to go to. It gets a little trickier if, like, let's say we needed something like that done, where we'd have, at least at this point, we know a guy, but your GC will 100%.
Yeah, and your GC will pull the permits and like
he'll do everything. Yeah,
and and these are questions to ask, like, because some GCs we've met are kind of like bare bones, and like they won't pull the permits, they won't schedule the dumpster, stuff like that. So
you need to supply all the supplies, like the toilets, everything.
Yeah, like some are like that, and some are full service. I'll get the materials, I'll pull all the permits, I'll order the dumpster. So like just include that in your conversation, like who's responsible for what.
Now, have you used the GC before, or is this your first time?
Myself, well, I've had to use GCs in my regular primary home before, so I've been familiar with them before, but I haven't done like a full gut of a bathroom or anything. That's just been more.
So just one thing I would throw out there,
and stuff like that.
Ask for it. Make sure he gives you an itemized receipt, like for all the material, and for where all of your pricing went and your costs went, because we've heard some horror stories about how marked up sometimes, and I'm not saying any of your GCs would do this, but like how marked up, they'll mark toilets up, they'll mark sheetrock up, and you're like, well, wait, hold on, why is that so expensive? So I would just say ask for an itemized receipt, and then once you get a good relationship with that guy, now he's your guy.
Or what some
Gotcha.
people, Andressa, she is the founder of the Invest Her meetup, like a national wide like female association. She is a GC, and what she recommends is, you could still let them buy the materials, but create a finishes list. So tell them what toilet you want, what tile you want. And then this way, how much it costs. Obviously, you don't need to tell them like what brand sheetrock or what like route and stuff, but like she gives them a finishes list. And this way, especially when she's having multiple GCs quote out a project, one GC can't say like, oh, well, yeah, but like my bid's higher because I assumed you're going to pick these kitchen cabinets instead of these or whatever. So by giving them a finishes list, you're now able to compare apples to apples, because it's kind of like, okay, here's the material cost. Like that's for the most part set. And so you're really kind of comparing the labor.
So we have a spreadsheet where we have every single appliance, material, everything that we've ever used in any of our rehabs. So we know once we walk through a property and we get a number on windows, doors, sheetrock, what needs, ceilings, lighting. We know exactly what our budget is going to sit at because we use the same stuff all the time. So if we were going to ever use a GC, the biggest question I would have is what's your labor rate? You know, what is your labor going to be on this property? So when we did the BRRRR, we actually were going to go with a GC, the one that we discussed earlier. And that's what I did. We drew up a scope of work, and we had like 5 or 6 general contractors come in and give me a price on labor only. And that's kind of how we went on who we picked. But it makes it a lot easier if you just document the things you use and use the same things all the time.
And you know what, Kyle, I appreciate that because that's kind of like one of my business model. Like use the same material, even get this. I heard people say get the SKU numbers off everything, so you know exactly. I kind of relate to her when she said earlier being conservative. I'm that guy too, but so yeah, like I want to create like a business model where it's just I'm using the same materials over and over. It's just they're gonna know what color the walls are gonna go, what the floors are gonna be, and we could just keep cranking them out. That's the plan. You know, I know it's not perfect all the time, but that's kind of like the business model that I'm going.
It's going to change how you walk through properties because you're going to walk through a property and you're going to be all of a sudden you're just going to be like, okay, that's ballpark about what I'm going to have to put into this.
Wow.
Yeah, and experience kind of helps a lot because like right now we sub out a lot of stuff. We're not like using one general contractor. So like I'll look and I'll go, okay, you know, this house is 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Well, I know our painter charges like $2 a square foot. I know our flooring is, you know, $2.29 a square foot, but then we get the underlayment and that's like another 50 cents. And like, you know, you excuse me, like a lot of people are like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, unfortunately, it kind of just takes you need the experience. So once you have one property and now you have the receipts from all your subs or your general contractor, which is why you want to itemize, because then you know like, oh, this 5 by 10 bathroom cost me $5,000. So now when I go look at another property, I know, you know? So, and then like by investing in the same areas, you also like the process just kind of keeps getting more redundant in the best way possible. Like we just know now that any property in this one town is going to be X dollars a square foot because we just know like.
We've got it written on a whiteboard, like 24, I already know it's $24 a square foot.
If we DIY.
If we DIY.
Gotcha. Yeah. Great. Well, I got one more question. Sorry. So, you know, when you guys said, you know, Kyle, when you were mentioning your private money lender, how people started seeing you after you did the first or second one, you know, the first thing that came to me was proof is in the pudding. That was the first concept that came into my head when you guys said that. So can you kind of guys go into a little bit of like how you found your private money lender and, you know, how long did the relationship go and kind of go into a little detail about how did that relationship build up?
So it's okay. Well, first I'm going to recommend Matt Faircloth has a book with bigger pockets called Raising Private Capital. And granted, he's like into syndications now, but he also has done private lending on a smaller scale. And his book talks all about that. Number 2, so again, transparency, our first lenders, well, so far our only lenders have been my parents and my brother. And that's really the place to kind of start is your friends and family.
And that's what Faircloth says.
Yeah. Start with people who you know, that you're comfortable with, that trust you, because it really is a trust thing, right? So how you said proof is in the pudding, that basically is just a trust signal that says, hey, they've done this before and they succeeded and we'll do it again. It's all about trust signals. And there's lots of ways that you can kind of express those, but knowing somebody, you know, while they're growing up is a huge one. And so when we first went to them, like we were like professional, right? I wasn't just like, yo, dad, can I have some money? You know, we kind of like, okay, like here are the terms. Here's like, you know, I'm going to email you every Friday with an update and like, it's going to be great. And that kind of ended up fizzling out because my dad was just like, you're my daughter, stop sending me these emails. But when that first started, like we were like, oh my God, like I can't believe I just begged my family for money. Like this is pathetic. Who are we? Oh my gosh, like we felt like we were begging. Now it's the mindset has completely shifted. We are now like providing them with an opportunity. And my parents had this money sitting in this account anyway. Now they're actually making money from it. And what Kyle was saying before about how like everyone loves HGTV. Now he gets to go to the coffee shop and he's like, oh, look at this property that I'm investing in. Like, look at nothing. And like we're coached by, like I mentioned before, Andressa and then Liz, they're the founders of the investor group. And one of the big things is like a private lending communication plan. You want to set expectations with your lenders, let them know when are they going to hear from you and what are they going to learn. So we email them every Friday and we say, this is what happened. This is what's wrong, and here's what we're doing to fix it. You never want to present them with problems, obviously. I mean, I feel like that's just common sense for anything.
But of course, we're always on track.
Never. But people don't necessarily care what the communication is as long as it comes at the time they expected it to, and they feel updated. That you never want them to go, I wonder how the project's going. That's the worst. Yeah. And so kind of going back to your question, because I know I'm going off on a tangent, because private money is like something I'm very in right now, because we're like really looking to like grow that list. So and offline, I'd be happy to talk with you about this because I'm like so in it right now. And so as soon as we finished the project, it went from begging for money to providing an opportunity. Like Kyle said, other friends, other family, people we like don't really have personal relationships with, that like Kyle would just meet at the golf course, was like, yeah, let me know. I'd love to invest in your next property. And at first we kind of were like, oh, like that's cool, but that's scary. But now it's like, it's turning into a thing. So like Kyle mentioned, the first step to me kind of finding other private lenders that are not my immediate family is creating that sample deal. So we took our last property and are making that the sample deal. You could use any property. Take a property off the MLS and just the purpose of the sample deal is that when you go to close, when you actually have a deal and you need the private money, you need people to commit verbally and then actually give you the money very quickly. Because the whole point of buying in cash is, you could close quickly.
Close fast.
So the sample deal's purpose is to prime the pump, is to get people used to the idea of lending to you and to like get out those conversations with their spouse or get out like any nervousness they have about it. So you want the sample deal to look like something that you actually would buy. So you would say, hey, here's something that would be a great fit for you to invest in. If I brought you something like this, would you invest? And they'll say, oh, all right, I'll look it over. And they might have some questions like, what happens if this happens? But then you get all those conversations out of the way so that when you then a couple months later, like, hey, I got a deal. Looks just like the sample deal I sent you. Are you ready? They could go, oh yeah, I already ran the numbers. I already talked to my husband. I'm already comfortable with the idea. So that's like the first kind of part. And then the next part is like the actual like transaction. And that's something we're working through right now because with my family, we did what's kind of like a desk drawer deal, which is like not like filed with the county. Like we kind of just like, we drew up a promissory note, we got it notarized, there were terms, we were binding, but they didn't like legally, I guess, put a lien on the property.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Yeah. So now I'm learning like this, like the real. I know where you live. Yeah, but my brother was like, no, like I need this. I need this term. You better pay me. I expect that.
And I actually appreciate that because then
it forced us to treat it more like
correct.
A business
set us up
rich are probably not the ones you want to borrow from. It's the people who you don't think look rich.
Look, right.
No, it's I don't know, it's your 70-year-old neighbor who you've been mowing the lawn for, who happens to have a crap ton of equity in her house, and she'd be open to refinancing, pulling cash out and loaning it to you. Or people can invest in their 401ks. There's lots of ways. So, yeah, I definitely recommend like reading a lot of Matt Fairclough stuff. He's really great.
Yeah, and I think Matt's up in New Jersey with you guys too, right? I think I'm actually listening to the audiobook right now, The Millionaire Next Door.
Yeah.
So when you were saying that, I was just in my head, The Millionaire Next Door, the people that don't look like they got money. So definitely, damn, that's a lot of jewels, guys. I really appreciate that. Yeah, and definitely we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, and his big thing is like, don't lead, like, this isn't a sales pitch, right? Like, he's like, you don't need, like, especially right now, you may not think about it, but money is easier to find than the deals. So he was like, you know, don't ever be like desperate, like, hey, I got this deal for you, you're gonna fund it. You know, everything should always be like a neutral conversation. Oh yeah, I invest in real estate. Yeah, we use private loans, and wait for them to come to you. That's like his big thing. So I don't know. What do you have
That's
any?
A lot of it. You froze off there. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You froze off there.
I was just saying, like, I know I kind of went off on a tangent. Do you have any other like specific questions about it?
No, it wasn't a tangent at all. This is kind of the stuff that I needed to hear, and I'm glad to hear. No, I don't know if anyone has any more questions. I don't want to take up the whole floor, so let him go.
No, I mean, if I may, you know, like when we were thinking also about like, you know, renovating and building another bathroom, that's what we were thinking, you know, like a private lender, start small, do, you know, like with family, you know, like present the work, present the project, like you can start with something small, like as, you know, like building the bathroom, so you can start building that relationship, that, you know, confidence, that trust with the private lender. And then once you're ready to, like, you know, move into like a property, then they'll feel more comfortable saying, okay, well, you know, like it was $5,000 and, you know, everything went good, and, you know, I got my money back with the interest. Why not go a little higher than that, you know, for the next time?
Definitely. Yeah.
So I have one more question for you guys. We've obviously, you know, like we focus right now in Passaic, which is a little pricey. Patterson though has a few properties, but I've seen a couple of them that they have commercial on the bottom and then they'll have residential on top. What's the take, like, you know, you guys? I don't know if you guys have dealt with any of that, or how do you guys feel with, you know, when it comes to properties that have that?
So we don't have any properties like that. But I guess I do have some thoughts. So commercial properties are great in that when you get tenants, they are most likely to stay for long periods of time because they're businesses. So sometimes they'll sign 5-year leases, 10-year leases. So like that's great. But they're also usually vacant a lot longer because, you know, there aren't like a million businesses being started every day that need your specific property. And in a case right now with COVID, you know, like 2008 was 100% a housing crisis. And I think COVID-19 is 100% a small business crisis. Obviously, it's having its effects on residential and commercial real estate, but it really is small businesses that are being affected, and then it's trickling down. So another thing though is that you have to use commercial financing. You know, you can't like get an FHA loan on a mixed use property like that. So financing is a little bit different. And I'm trying to think of what some of my other thoughts are.
I mean, my biggest fear with a small commercial property like that is the percent of small businesses that fail within the first, I don't know, what was it, 15 years or something like that?
Well, I think most businesses fail within the first year.
Absolutely. Right. But I mean, I think it's like almost 90% fail within the first like 10 years or something like that. But like, that's what scares me, is the failure rate is what's keeping you from having a tenant or not having a tenant. Otherwise, just somebody just residing.
But then I will say there are some people who like that's their bread and butter. I was listening to I'm assuming it was a Bigger Pockets episode, and they were talking about how like all they own are like strip malls and commercial spaces in like main streets across the U.S. and they're all about goods and services. So they always rent to like barber shops, pizza places. Like they don't necessarily do like the boutiques where it's like if someone lost their job, they're not going to go buy like the cute bath scrub, but they still need to like eat dinner, you know? So they're all about like basic goods and services. And that's how like this guy was a millionaire and he made his whole thing. So I think it's there. Unfortunately, I don't think we have the experience to maybe like direct you on that more, but those are the things you got to look for, is that tenancy could be longer, but vacancy could also be.
Yeah.
And then funding is different.
Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward for the next episode on you guys for tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Could you give us a little sneak peek?
I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, it's the one where I punched myself in the face.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, yes.
I actually hit the premiere. That's the premiere episode that you guys are having tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I subscribed to it. I already hit. I was like, I'm gonna watch tomorrow when it comes on.
Cracked myself in the face so hard.
Yeah. So basically, we start shiplapping the bathroom, and the thought process was like, let's get the bathroom done, and then we'll move in. Not that obviously, like this was filmed so long ago. We're still in Kyle's parents' house.
Yeah.
So, but the funny thing is that so Kyle's shiplapping.
And none of the walls are straight, obviously, because it's, a 100-year house.
And he's kind of like manhandling, getting the roof off the wall, and he pulls it and smashes himself in the face so hard.
I swore I split my eye open.
As this happens, we're kind of like tiffing at this point. Like we just got into like a little bicker argument, so like we don't really like each other in the moment. And I hear a board smack his face, and he's just like.
So I just had to end an argument. I just hit myself or something.
And I was like, are you like, can you get back to work? Like, what's the problem?
Awesome.
But it's good. Yeah. Then the next couple episodes, and it's funny because I think the first two episodes are very like numbers and like typical bigger pocket type things. But the rest of the series is very like documentary style, just like following us along, like vlog, Instagram stories. And so I think some people are like, wait a minute, like nothing happened in this episode.
Wait,
like that's the point.
The house doesn't get renovated in 20 minutes?
In one episode.
So yeah, that's what I'm excited about, just because that's the difference.
Yeah.
And the other stuff that I've seen.
Yeah.
And just let you guys know, there's people out there that appreciate that because it's real. It's reality. This is what it's really about. This is not HGTV or it's just, this is reality. This is what it's really about. So there's a lot of us out there that appreciate that. Believe me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Glad you guys are
I
liking
agree.
it.
I agree. Anyone else have any questions? Okay.
I have a question. Sorry, I'm just getting inside.
No problem.
Hi,
no problem. Hi, how are you?
Hello.
I'm good. Hold on. I don't know how to turn on. I'm on my phone. I don't really use it. But Lauren and Kyle, I have a question. I didn't know you guys were almost ready to start looking for another property again. How are you guys going to look for it? And what kind of property are you looking for?
Oh, man. Yeah, so, okay, so I think I know, right? We have to manifest the shit out of this stuff. So we are going to, so we're going to do mailers, but instead of doing like a large list source, we're going to be mailing out to like 100 or 300 people. I'm channeling a little Kirsten in this, and we're going to do some driving for dollars in our 2 markets. And I want to get like 30 addresses, and then I'm going to do custom mailers to each one, which I know is so time consuming, but we wrote letters to 2 of our properties, and I really think that's like why they sold it to us, because we're 100%. So personable. Because we're not a huge corporation that's like, we buy houses. So and then we're targeting people who have obviously like lived in the property for a while. They're run down. Maybe they're absentee landlords. Maybe they're, I don't know. I'm still trying to I don't know if this is insensitive, but I'm still trying to find a list of people who are defaulting on their mortgages.
Like pre-foreclosures.
Who might be a little bit in a sticky situation where they could be looking to sell, and maybe we can help them out with that.
It's not a bad way to look at it, because you're actually helping them out.
Sure.
Right. If they're in a bad situation.
The longer they stay in that property, a lot of times the
worse it gets.
Yeah.
financial trouble.
So we would drive for dollars. We're going to get 20 addresses. I'm going to mail them. I have it on my list. I need to create a script before I mail them, because if they call, I don't want to like shit myself. How do I, make sure that I know what I'm saying? And we're looking in 2 areas. We're looking for single family homes in our like working class.
We're looking for a BRRRR.
Yeah, a BRRRR. Or we're also looking for perhaps like a duplex or a triplex in our other market, but also needs to be BRRRRable because they don't have enough cash to be leaving money in deals, which is why we're also hitting hard on the private lending side.
Yeah.
There's her face.
I love it. I love it.
You're just motivating me. I see you doing your mailers. I'm like, all right, I gotta go. I said it, I don't think you were on, but like before we started like the actual meetup, we were all chit-chatting, and I was like, no matter how far you get into this, like not that we're super far, but you like, I keep giving myself the same advice that I give people who haven't bought a deal or kind of like where we are, is that I find myself procrastinating because, oh, it's not the right time. I'll do it after this. No, you're scared. You don't want to be uncomfortable. Just start doing it now. So even though we're not done with this renovation, I gotta start looking for the next
Kirsten, I love and hate you at the same time. This morning it was like so early. We're like driving to the house. I'm like just finishing my coffee, and Lauren's like, "All right, let's talk mailers." I'm like, how do I wake up first?
I'm like, okay, so 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year goals.
Go.
What do they look like? What are the exact dates that they're happening? And what are our rewards? What do you want to reward yourself with in 5 years? When we reach this, he's like, oh my God, Lorelai.
Oh my God. It's great.
These are the things that really create a lot of conversation and really get you comfortable and thinking and moving. And
absolutely, 100%.
It's less about the goals to me and more about the conversations that are created from talking about it.
Yeah.
Amen. That's
I mean, that's
Yep.
yeah, that conversation, my girlfriend and I be having a lot, like we'll be driving around and she'll come out of nowhere like, okay, so what's our goal, 3 years, 5 years, what's the strategy, how we're going to get there? I'm like,
and it's,
right. But it also motivates you, like it just gives you this big picture to look forward to.
Yeah.
Actually, I can almost guarantee it's going to change.
Yeah.
Because if you asked us 3 years ago in 2017, after we finished our first duplex, our 5 year or even 3 year goal, it would be totally different from what our 3 year goal right now is. So
it's okay that they change.
It's okay to change.
But it's important to do them because, and Kirsten knows this because she's in a mastermind with me, is that I was scared to committing to our 10-year goal because I knew that if we worked backwards, we were not what we were doing now was not going to get us to our goal. And so I just subconsciously was like, well, if I never commit to that goal, we can just keep doing what we're doing and we'll just get somewhere in the future. But by actually saying no, this is what the goal is, and what you're doing now isn't going to get you there. What are you going to change? I was like, wow. It was a big mindset shift for me. And the reason I wasn't committing is because I was scared and I didn't want us to change what we were doing, because what we're doing now is easy and we're comfortable and not going to get me the yacht that we want. So got it. Take it back.
Wait, get a yacht in Fort Lauderdale, right? Is that where you're gonna move to? Right?
And driving to Fort Lauderdale, pick you up, and we're gonna swing by. Well, no, you're not. You're in Hollywood, Florida anymore. Sorry. Along the way. But we might go up the coast to Massachusetts to Martha's Vineyard, in which case we'll pick you up along the way.
I'll jump over.
We'll pick Edwin up at Bayonne. There's a port there. We'll pick him up. Kirsten will come out of Pennsylvania.
Well, that sounds amazing.
Lauren, it's funny you talk about the mailer letter. So I sent out, like I said, I'm in the phase where I feel like I need to do something, even though I'm not in Massachusetts yet, but I need to do something. Yeah. So I sent out 4 letters because we did a couple driving for dollars, and I got 4 properties, and I had the same thought in my mind. And I'm saying what the hell am I going to tell these people when they call me? But I kept telling myself, I'm not going to let the fear of that stop me. You will figure it out. Just go. Don't stop. And I had to keep giving myself a pep talk. Every time I put the letter in the mail, I'm like, should I do it? Should I not do it? I just do it. I'm like, you know what? When they call, I'll figure it out. I'll talk it through. So I have the same. You guys are so advanced more than I am, but I have that same thought too. So just
Hey,
you guys will get it.
What's your phone number?
Kyle's gonna.
I'm not joking.
No.
Have a mock phone call.
Well, that's true.
Like,
so, and Kirsten had a coach who would do role play with her.
Yeah.
And he would randomly call you throughout the week. And then,
That's
I'm
awesome.
interested in selling my house.
Yeah.
And would challenge her. So, I mean, if you can have me to do that, I mean, I know it like is weird and uncomfortable, but I would say do it.
if you can pitch a house to me with a squeaky girl voice, you can do it.
But I also want to say though that like we did something the other month and afterwards I was like, well, that was horrible. And we were both like, yeah, but now the next one's gonna be better. So the first call that the seller, and I should be saying this to myself because I'm also nervous about talking to sellers, the first person that calls us might suck. We might be like, gosh, why did I say that? I don't know why I did that. But the second call, you're not gonna do it. It's gonna be better. So I like your style. You just gotta figure it out.
And I would say once you hang up the phone with the first person, just analyze that call, take notes, and then just have those notes there. And then Lauren like is big on like creating like an actual almost like script.
Yeah.
Which would be, I mean, if you haven't done so, it may be like a good idea. Just bullet points.
Even
on,
if you
like,
don't use it,
Yeah,
just to like
something to refer
mentally like to think it out prior to. I think.
something and writing it down helps you memorize it. It's kind of the same aspect.
Definitely. I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that either tomorrow. I'm probably gonna sit down and write something out, kind of put it to paper.
And have some. I'm not kidding, man. Have somebody call you. Do a mock phone call. I mean,